Okay, let's dive right in. When we hear the words identity theft, we usually picture some shadowy hacker in a basement halfway across the world, right? But today's explainer is going to look at something much, much closer to home. We're exploring exactly why identity theft destroys families. We're going to walk through a devastating case study that brings this crime right to the kitchen table, showing us the hidden mechanics and just the profound emotional fallout of having your financial identity stolen by the person you literally trust the most in the world. $62,000. I really want you to put yourself in this scenario for a second. Picture this. You're 22 years old. You're super excited, sitting across from a loan officer at a dealership, finally applying for your very first car loan, gaining a little independence. The officer punches in your info, clicks a few buttons, and suddenly, the whole mood in the room just shifts. Right then and there, you find out you already owe $62,000. It's just a massive mountain of debt dropping on you out of a clear blue sky, instantly crushing your financial future before it's even begun. And this brings us to a quote that perfectly captures the sheer shock a young man named Mark felt in that exact moment. Debt I never took out, in accounts I never opened. What's really wild about this discovery is the trail of breadcrumbs left on that paperwork. His credit report was just completely covered in red flags. For starters, it was tied to an address he hadn't even lived at since he was 16 years old. His name, his social security number, they were plastered all over financial liabilities he had absolutely zero knowledge of. Part 1. Weaponizing a son's trust. So let's trace how this trap was actually set. Go back to when Mark was 16. His father, a hardworking single dad who literally never missed a school event and raised Mark on his own, asks him to sign some papers for a family phone plan so Mark can get his first cell phone. Of course, Mark signs it without a second thought. I mean, why wouldn't he? But over the next 6 years, while Mark is just busy being a normal teenager, going to school, getting his first job, this totally unknown mountain of debt is silently accumulating in the background. It took 6 full years, right up until he was 22, for the trap to finally spring. Because here is the absolute crucial point. When his 16-year-old blindly trusts his dad and signs forms at the kitchen table, he has no idea he's actually signing off on his own financial ruin. Hidden in that phone plan paperwork was a car loan, 2 credit cards, and get this, a personal loan from a payday lender. His father was actively using his son's completely clean social security number because his own credit was already completely trashed. Which brings us to the devastating double twist. When Mark finally confronted his dad, just asking him why, his father couldn't even look him in the eye. He threw out this excuse, saying he was just in over his head. I was going to fix it before he needed credit for anything real. I always meant to fix it. And Mark, being a good son, desperately wanted to believe that. But the brutal reality was sitting right there in an old filing cabinet. The dates on those applications, they never stopped. Actually, scratch that. They didn't just not stop. The most recent loan was opened just 4 months prior to that awful day at the dealership. This wasn't just some past mistake from a desperate parent. It was an ongoing predatory act happening right up until he got caught. So what is the actual price of justice? This realization right here captures exactly why this crime shatters the family bond so utterly. Reporting your own father for identity theft doesn't feel like justice. It feels like grief. Sitting in some sterile official office, Mark didn't report his dad out of a sense of anger or vengeance, not at all. He did it out of sheer necessity. It was literally the only viable way to legally separate his name from this massive financial anchor his father had chained to him. To actually untangle his life, Mark had to slog through 3 agonizing steps. First, filing all the official paperwork with the FTC's Identity Theft Office. Second, taking those reports to the banks would finally freeze the fraudulent accounts. And third, pushing through this whole exhausting bureaucratic nightmare to legally regain control of his own credit report. Now, because of the statute of limitations passing on most of the debt, his dad was never criminally charged. But these incredibly painful yet totally necessary steps finally let Mark reclaim his legal identity from debts he never agreed to. Moving on to trust, vigilance, and prevention.
Okay, so how do we prevent this from happening to anyone else? You absolutely have to make checking your credit report a non-negotiable monthly routine. Just bake it into your schedule. But here is the biggest takeaway for sure. If you or someone you know is under 18, their credit file should be completely empty today, like literally a blank page. If it isn't, you need to start asking some hard questions right now. Please do not wait 6 years for a terrifying surprise at a car dealership.
And that leaves us with a pretty profound question. Are trust and vigilance really opposites? Today, Mark actually sits down with his younger cousins to teach them how to check their credit. He checks his own every single month. And he doesn't do this because he inherently distrusts people now or because he's consumed by bitterness. He does it because of the powerful lesson he learned the hard way. It really leaves us to wonder, in a world where your financial identity can be compromised by the people sitting right next to you at dinner, does true family security actually require a